Hello everyone, welcome to the first of many videos on how to use Tinkercad circuits to learn how to code an Arduino in a simulated environment. Once you get logged in and signed up for an account with Autodesk, on the left hand side you're going to click on the Circuits menu, which is highlighted in blue here on my screen, followed by the Create New Circuit button, which is green. This will open up a new circuit workspace, and after we give it a second to load, we'll be able to start setting some options. Alright, now that we're loaded in, you'll see on my screen I have a pop-up, and if you ever get a pop-up and it's just something new added to the program, you can just feel free to close it after reading it. So I'm going to close that right away. And our first task here today is to use a simulated circuit, which is already built into the program, just to understand how this environment works. So on the top right hand side here, we're going to click on the menu labeled currently as Components. We're going to go down to Arduino, and this is going to give us a selection of Arduino circuits and code that have already been pre-made in the system. We're going to grab the blink sketch by clicking and holding on it and dragging it onto our screen. You'll notice that it provides us with an Arduino Uno. We have a reset button on the screen. We have this USB cable that's currently not attached. And at the top we have a little red bulb, which is an LED. So that stands for light emitting diode. We have two green wires. We have this little beige thing called a resistor, which we're going to learn about more in the next lesson, and a black line coming back to ground. You may remember from previous classes that electricity has to be returned back to ground on these circuits, and in this case we can see the light is going to be attached to pin 13. We're going to send a signal out through a resistor. It's going to light up the light bulb and then come back down through the ground. So this is great, but what's the code look like? Up here on the top right we can see a code button, and if I click on it, it brings me into a block-based coding environment, something that we have used in the past, and we are going to start looking at a written language. So we're going to switch from blocks to text, and it's going to make sure that we want to do this, and we're going to go ahead and hit continue, and we're going to be greeted with this screen right here on the right hand side, which is a text-based editor. You'll see on the very first line it says it's a C++ code. Okay, so that means all of the code we're going to be learning from this point on is C++. We'll see that they have these two slashes, and this refers to a comment, something that is left for a human to read but is not passed to the circuit. And in the comments here we can see it's C++ code, as I've already mentioned, but then we also see this other type of comment, which is a multi-line comment, and in it we can see that this program blinks pin 13, so pin 13, which we've already talked about, of the Arduino, the built-in LED. So there's also an LED here on the board that will blink as well. Then we see some code, this thing called void setup, which we'll get into in a future lesson, and void loop. But you can think of those in relation to your block-based coding. Void setup is very similar to start in MakeCode, and void loop is very similar to the forever loop or forever block in MakeCode. So let's just go ahead and hit start simulation and see what happens. So it's going to tell us how the debugger works. We're going to close that out. And as we look at our LED here on the screen, we can see it lights up red and then dims, and we can see it lights up in unison with the onboard LED. This is really important because we can use this sketch at any point to ensure that our board is properly working. So when you pull out a board from the back and you bring it to your desk for the first time and it doesn't seem to work, sometimes it's a good idea just to run this blink sketch to make sure that the board is working, that it's accepting code from our computer, and that it has the ability to control this onboard LED. So you can do all this without the setup here on the top. So let's just show that really quick. So we're going to hit stop simulation. We're going to click on the LED and delete it. Oops, it's currently being used by the code. Let's try, there we go. So it had not finished the simulation yet. So we have nothing attached here, and if I start the simulation again, we should see this light still works. That's great. We can see the light blinking on and off. So that's an intro to Tinkercad circuits, the blink sketch. The purpose of this video, as I mentioned, was just to get comfortable with the environment, and I think we've done that. We've shown how to open up a new circuit, how to use the component menu to find some pre-built circuits, how to use the code to review the code that's currently simulated on this board, and how to start and stop our simulation. Join me in the next video to understand what this code actually means.